Samuel, welcome to Halloween Daily. Thank you so much for hanging out and talking to us today.
Thank you to having me. That's so cool. Thanks.
I'm super excited to talk to you about Cobweb today. It's a new horror movie, not just a new horror movie, but a new Halloween horror movie, which is the best kind as far as we're concerned. And I really love it, and I'm excited to talk all about it. But before we get into that, we're Halloween Daily News, where every day's Halloween. So part of your origin story, we always start these interviews whenever possible with a little bit about the holiday itself and what Halloween means to you. So I'm very curious with, in your case, growing up in France, what is your experience with Halloween been like? Were you exposed to it as a kid? Was it something you celebrated and looked forward to it, or is it relatively new to you?
Uh, to be very honest, in France, we don't do Halloween. It's
Yeah.
when you are a teenager, it's an excuse to make big parties and everything.
Right.
But there is no traditional holidays about it, and so all what I knew about Halloween or what I felt about Halloween was through literature, and my culture, and obviously movies,
Yeah.
and I think my bigger contact with Halloween is John Carpenter's movie. Halloween was for me the sign of Halloween, and so all what I all my feeling about it was a kind of a phantasm. I dreamed about, oh, maybe one day I would be able to do a Halloween movie or a Halloween tale. And when Cobweb came, it was for me a chance, but it was still a kind of a dream. I didn't have the feeling of what is really the holiday in the USA or this kind of thing. So I built my own in a way. I built my little own Halloween celebration, and with my imagination and my feelings. So it was a great experience for me, a great chance, an opportunity.
Oh, I love that, and I love. I was wondering and thinking that yeah, maybe some of your experience growing up would have been probably through American films like John Carpenter's Halloween, like you said, and that I was thinking that probably would be some of your exposure to the holiday in those early years at least.
Absolutely. It's like that in a foreign country there is a there is a holiday, a party where you are allowed to scare each other when you celebrate that, and you can't be a part of it. So it was so frustrating as a French guy, a French kid. I say, oh, we can't do Halloween. So I remember that with my friend, we close the door and rent VHS or movies just to do our Halloween at us,
Yeah.
as little kids or teenagers. But yeah, it was always a dream or a phantasm, and that, yeah, as I said, that was so cool when we prepared and we worked on Cobweb with my producers. I always ask, okay, if I do that, am I right, or is it totally strange? And they always say, yeah, it's in the middle. You're not
Yeah.
totally in the US way to do it, but you have your own go. So they encourage me a lot to do that on the movie.
That's awesome, and you really do that. You create a great Halloween vibe in Cobweb, and I was going to ask you what initially drew you to the project, and was that part of it? Was it always set on Halloween, and was that part of what initially drew you to it?
Yeah, um, especially it was part of my decision, because when I wrote the script of Chris Divine for the first time,
Hmm.
it was wrote as an Halloween tale. There was this kind of weird feeling. It was not a normal script. Since the
Hmm.
beginning, it was like he tell you a tale, a story, a kind of weird lullaby, and it talked to me a lot. I said, okay, with that script, I really can build my way to do it. It will not be a grounded story. It will be like a weird Halloween joke, a weird Halloween tale, but it was really, really already on the lines of Chris since
Hmm.
the beginning. And I love that. I love that feeling, like you are in a weird fairy tale with a big
Yes.
twist in it, or something that you don't want to know, or something like that. So it was here since the beginning, and and from that, we really embrace it. You know, okay, it's our story. It's a Halloween tale. It's a kind of weird Halloween joke. And we take that, really embrace that, and build our stuff. You know, we shot in Bulgaria, in studio in Bulgaria, in Sofia. So we really had to build everything. So it's really a movie with everything is created and built and designed. And when I have a kind of story like that, I love to imagine that, you know, like you are in a bubble with snow, you know. So let's build our place, our house, our Halloween, and let's do that in a modest way in our little bubble. And we worked on that, but since the beginning, Chris wanted to tell a Halloween tale, so we follow him.
I love that, and yeah, I mean, you definitely created it. I was going to ask if it was challenging creating that Halloween atmosphere where you were filming. I mean, there's a ton of pumpkins in this movie. I'm sure. I mean, because if they're not in season, I don't know when you shot it, but I mean, and where. But I mean, they're not always easy to get a hold of, and there's a lot of pumpkins in the film.
Yeah,
was that a challenge?
It was a challenge. It was a challenge, and you know, we shot we start to shot during October, but in Europe, and in Europe you don't have the same pumpkins. And on the script, at first, it was only a little patch, and I wanted to do it bigger. I wanted to create a kind of ocean of pumpkins, you know, with an ocean of orange stuff, with that little guy in blue in the middle of it. So at first, we succeeded to have a certain amount of them, you know, and then they wrote very, very fast. So we built some fake and used, you know, good one and fake, and it was a sport. And all the Bulgarian crew, you know, drove all the Europe to have enough pumpkin to do the scenes. They fight a lot for that. So thanks to them, we succeeded. But it was not easy at all.
Yeah. Yeah, I imagine. Well, it definitely comes off great and looks great, and gives me those warm Halloween vibes that I'm always looking for in a movie set during that time of year. Now with Cobweb, you know, no spoilers or anything, but I mean, it's a really cool kind of contained movie. You've got a relatively small cast. You've got 4 main characters, and so the casting obviously is so important in a movie like this. And I feel with your 4 leads, they all really nailed it and knocked it out of the park. But I was curious, did you always see Anthony and Lizzie as the parents? Because after watching, I can't see anybody else even being considered in those roles. They're so good and scary in those roles.
It was part of a process. What we were sure with the producers and the writer, it was to create a weird family. We wanted to create a weird place, like in a tale, like in Caroline, or this kind of, you know, vibe. And so it was important to find actors that can give you that. And when I met with Lizzie and Anthony, it was since the beginning, okay, I make prayers. Oh, I really want them to be able to do it. And it was in the middle of the pandemic, you know, so it was very complicated to get all together to make the movie. But when we did, we worked a lot to find the right weird way. You know, we took every scene at every part where, okay, the audience knows that here. We know that. They have to not know that. And then we have to be weird and create this kind of weird feeling of a tale, of a Halloween tale. And we worked a lot. And that's so cool to work with Lizzie Kaplan, because she's so good at that. She's so precise. She's a surgeon. I don't know the word, but you get me. And so we decide each time, okay, it's too normal. We have to be more weird. And sometimes we, you know, go back, oh, we are too weird, and we lose the story. And so it was really a work in the detail in each scene. And in the middle of that, we have Woody Norman, and Woody has to take it as he is. And he really did, you know, and that's very difficult for an actor. So he was a child, he was 9, and he really, really played with all of that. And so, yeah, I'm lucky.
Absolutely. And like I said, I was really impressed. They all did great. And Woody, as you mentioned, as Peter, he's really awesome, and he's in so much of the movie too. That obviously you had to find the right actor for that. And I do get that weird feeling, and it's very, because so much of it is kind of from Peter's point of view. And as we're learning things through what he knows for most of the movie, and it's does have almost a weird kind of dreamlike feeling, which kind of, when you're an adult looking back on your childhood memories, they kind of feel like that as a grown up thinking about that time period. You kind of think of it in a way as a dream in your head. So I think that's kind of fitting that it's a weird kind of surreal type feel to it, like you're talking about.
That's cool that you feel it, because we look for that feeling, this kind of hypnotic way to move on. It's not reality. One of our reference, a strong reference, was The Night of the Hunter.
Okay.
Because it's a movie where nothing is real. You really have the point of view of the kids, and it's awful. It's so, and I really, really wanted to create that again, because as you said, it's all the movie, basically, it's Peter on the house, which is a character by itself, Peter on the house and shadows. It's so the purpose was to find again that place in your childhood when you have the feeling what is real or not, when you can't see your parents, you just hear them or see their shadow and don't understand what they are talking about, and all this kind of thing when you can't find your place in the world, and so the dreamy part, but it's part of Halloween, it's not reality. Suddenly this night things are not normal, and you can dream again and have nightmares again, and we try to create that again.
And it definitely comes through. I felt all that, and you're playing with some primal fear here of like being a kid and doubting your parents. I mean, that's kind of where he's at as the movie is, as we're entering this story, and you have this central mystery introduced right away in the beginning of this weird tapping in the walls, and there's this mystery, and then Peter is kind of doubting his parents, which is kind of the most terrifying thing you can think of at that age, when they are kind of your whole world. And it's really just, and that's your whole setting too. It's that house and a little bit in the classroom. And at that age, that was all of our life, was home and school. And that's pretty much your whole existence.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's so scary when you know, the only people you trust, even the only people you see, and you can't trust them anymore. You are stuck in your nightmare. You are alone. That's the story of that movie. And I really wanted since the beginning to make a movie which will be short. I love when you just have the gesture of that story. And since the beginning, the script was like that, and we really tried to keep that way. Like it's really a tale, a Halloween tale with a beginning. You have that middle thing that I won't talk about, and then it's finished, and it was the way we wanted to build it.
Yeah, and it moves fast, but not in the sense that you're rushing the scares or anything. Like I said, it introduces this very intriguing mystery right away, and so right away you're in Peter's POV, and you're like, okay, what's going on? We're here with this kid. His parents are a little weird, a little creepy, maybe. What's going on here? And so we're just along for the ride, and I love that. And you do some fun old school camera tricks. Like I especially love one shot you have where Peter, he's kind of spying on mom and dad, talking about him, and you see him real small in the frame, and their shadows are cast huge on both sides of him as they're talking about him. And I just found that to be such a cool, striking image. I mean, it's kind of simple in its old school approach of, like you said, just using shadow and light, but it was just so effective of like, that's what he's feeling right now visually, what we're seeing. I love that scene.
Yeah, and I love when you go in the movies and suddenly the level of fiction is high and the pictures tell you what's going on without nothing. It's like Dutch expressionism or this kind of stuff, and I love to try to do that my way, and find way to tell the story without, if you mute the sound, you understand what happened. Yeah, and even if it's in a foreign language and something like that, you can totally, understand what happened and know what you have to feel or this kind of thing. When you want to scare people, it's what I love in scary stories. You can talk about very serious matter, very complicated matter, like death, family, loss, disease, all this kind of thing. But when you are afraid, you're a kid again. Like in Halloween, you are a kid again, you're 11 years old again. And I love that muscle. I love, because when you are afraid, your ears are, it's like a little bit in comedy, when you laugh, your ears are very wide open and you can understand a lot of things. And I love that in scary stories. So I try to, put that on the screen.
Very cool. I love that. And yeah, I definitely can feel that. I wanted to talk a little bit about some of your influences, and you've mentioned Carpenter, and of course, I'm a huge Carpenter fan myself. And I read an interview you did recently with Variety, and you mentioned The Shining, Kubrick's The Shining, and just John Carpenter in general as a filmmaker as being influences on your work and on Cobweb. And I was curious, could you talk a little bit about those influences and any other influences that you kind of leaned into with Cobweb?
Yeah, absolutely. But it's always difficult with influences because, you have the influences that you can't get rid of them since, the beginning of your audience, member of audience life, And I love the movies of Sergio Leone, all the corpse and the space and time. And I know that, those movies are always in my head. In another way, I love totally Wong Kar-wai movies or this kind of thing. So it's really, or Wes Anderson, you can feel a little bit of Wes Anderson in Cobweb, It's like a dollhouse, and I love that, with the very charged wallpaper and all this kind of stuff. But The Shining, for me, it's really a movie that I watch it every 3 months, and I always fascinated by it because, obviously the cinematography of it, the architecture of it, everything is scary, but not only scary, because you can smile in front of The Shining, and I love that. You have your big smile looking at those dialogues and say, oh my God, that is so crazy. And it's like it take crazy and succeed to put it on a screen. And with that control, and it takes its time, and all the movements are hypnotic, you feel everything. I really have the feeling each time I watch it, I'm learning something. And I never stop learning something. So when I work with Woody, obviously I say, I thought a lot about them and the torrents over there, and I say, okay, how Danny plays that, how Danny, so it's totally a reference. The same way we thought a lot with Lizzie to the Babadook, the relationship between the kid and the mother. The mother is dangerous here, and how we can build that. And Halloween, John Carpenter, it's like John Carpenter teach me reason, and horror is a question of reason a lot, and scary stories, like in comedy in a way. And John Carpenter, the generosity he has in his movies, especially Halloween, and how it's only, bodies, time, and storyline, and how he creates that feeling. It's so rich. Each time I'm stuck in a directing problem, on set or before, I say to myself, okay, what John Carpenter will do on that thing. And then, it's always a way. And it's the same when sometimes you are really rock bottom when you do this kind of movies or this kind of, because it's complicated. And if I take, I don't know, Prince of Darkness and put Prince of Darkness on my screen, 15 minutes after that, I want to do a movie again. So, it's like pure energy for me. So, there are few of the references that I can pick.
Awesome. And I love all those that you cited. So that's probably another reason why I love Cobweb so much. And it's out now. You opened the same weekend as Barbie and Oppenheimer, so you're in good company in theaters. And
Pretty
I hope
good company.
What was that?
Yeah, pretty in good company. But to see all the theaters full like that and full of energy and envy, I think we are very little in that. We are insignificant in that, but I'm so happy to see so much people seeing all those movies. And if you want my opinion, I love the two movies a lot. So I'm happy, I'm in good company. So it's so great to see so much people in the theater, after what happened.
Oh, absolutely. It is great. And I'm glad it got a theatrical release. And I hope audiences are finding it. And I definitely feel like it will be a movie that will be discovered as time goes on, once it reaches streaming platforms and stuff. And a lot of horror fans are going to discover it and they're going to watch it. And I think they're going to be pleasantly surprised that, wow, this is a lot more atmospheric than I was expecting. This is a lot more fun than I was expecting. And like you said, very kind of weird and surreal in its Halloweenness of it all, which I really responded to, of course, and loved. So I do hope and recommend it to audiences to seek out Cobweb. Do you have upcoming projects that you can talk about? Anything we can look forward to seeing from you?
I can't tell too much, but I'm developing another horror story with a little. Not little, with an American company named, and it's from a story of mine. So it's something that I want to tell since a long time. It's a weird one and a scary one, I hope. Awesome. And I can't wait to succeed, to finance it and shoot it. And but it's on a good way. But we have to, solve a lot of problem now, and we have to stand the fight and everything. It's not mine directly, but I'm in support of. So let's win that fight, and then I will be happy to make another movie.
I'd be happy to scare the crap out of us again with a new film.
With pleasure. With pleasure.
Well, I will be looking forward to it, and I'll be looking forward to rewatching Cobweb. I've said I think it's going to make a lot of our annual October rotations when we're running all of our favorite Halloween horror movies. I think it's going to be on a lot of our rotations annually. So again, great job. I love the movie, and I can't thank you enough for talking to us today and giving us some more insight into who you are and your experiences making this film.
Thank you to having me, and it's my little contribution to that holidays, and so I'm happy that you can like it. That's good.
Awesome. I definitely like it, and I think audiences will too. And we hate to say goodbye, so instead, since every day's Halloween anyway here, we're just going to say Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween to you. Happy Halloween to you.